Something's creeping, it's right outside. So come on in, and don't be shy. We've got ghosts and UFOs. Brace yourself, get ready for the show. Don't be afraid of the dark. The fun's about to start. Nightmares our tales will inspire. Oh, tonight at the Scaredy Campfire. Have you heard tell of a demon next door? Or maybe a cryptid on the lake shore? There's nothing too strange for us here. So if you're ready, stamp out your fear. Don't be afraid of the dark. The fun's about to start. Nightmares our tales will inspire. Tonight at the Scaredy Campfire. Whoa, whoa.
Welcome back, campers, to episode 15 of the Scaredy Campfires. By now, you know the firelight doesn't just warm, it reveals. And tonight, the stories we share will take us into places where the familiar becomes strange and the ordinary turns frightening. These tales remind us that the unknown is never far, even in the most ordinary moments. Some houses never feel like home, no matter how long you live in them. For Reddit user u/the spoon liquor, growing up in rural East Germany meant growing up in a house that carried more than just memories. Footsteps in the attic, voices in the night, and figures in old military uniforms weren't just passing shadows. They were part of daily life. And the deeper they looked into the history of the house, the more the past seemed to step forward into the present. When my mother was pregnant with me, she and my father bought a house in very rural East Germany. My father was disabled, so he couldn't work anymore, and my mother worked in the psychiatric hospital an hour away. So my father was always left alone in the house, and he hated it. He told my mother he'd hear voices and footsteps, things would move, the TV would change channels, and so on. My mother always thought it was because of his medications, heart defects, diabetes, and very strong pain medications, since her go-to was always, "No, you're just stressed and tired," since that was the same thing she told herself and continues to say to herself to this day. When I was born, my father was terrified to let me sleep on the attic, where my room was planned to be. He made me stay in his room until his excuses wouldn't work anymore. He always said that I'd have night terrors and so on, since my mother always did night shifts and therefore couldn't prove him wrong. He also put me in kindergarten at 9 months old because the house creeped him out too much. The first memories I have of this house are no different. I heard the voices of men's coughing and heavy footsteps, but I didn't have such a problem with it as my father did. I didn't think they were scary for some reason. At some point, my mother didn't have as many night shifts as she did back then, so I was moved to the room on the attic. It was way louder up there. I had the same experiences as my father. My TV would switch channels, my VHS player would act up, which wasn't that weird as I was used to that and thought they just did that, and the DVD player did the same. I had drapes in front of my bed that would move every night right next to the armchair that my mother put there. One plushie kept falling off of the shelf, and I had weird dreams, always of grown-ass men. A Russian soldier, 2 men that I could never put into any category. The men in my dreams would just be normal to me, not threatening, but just there. I was so young that I didn't know that this was a whole village for the Russian military in the GDR, and once the GDR was gone, the Russian soldiers left, and Germans would buy those houses. Called them by the names they told me, which were Sascha, Heinrich, and Max. Sascha and Max would always tell me never to go into the woods without my neighbors. I didn't question it. Why would I? I was 4, and my neighbors always watched me when my father was in the hospital and my mother was at work when the kindergarten was closed. The 3 would also always say never to talk to certain neighbors, which were basically all except those who watched me regularly. Once again, why would I question that? 4 years old, nice neighbors were fine, and those 3 were always nice. At one point, my mother got behind it that I experienced the same thing my father did, so she questioned my father and me separately. I described them, gave names, and told her how they talked and what they said. Hughes brushed it off until we were both going to our beach, but I said, I know a shortcut. We had a hidden beach that you can't even see on Google Maps to this day, since it belongs to the military base next to our house. She didn't know, my dad didn't know, neighbors didn't know, no one really did, but I somehow led her to it, through the forest, knew where I could and couldn't step. What could possibly be in a forest, in an area that was full of war, next to a military base of the Russians? Exactly, landmines. Never hit any, never saw any explode until I was 12, but we did find a lot of those that stepped on said mines. My mom asked me where I knew, and I told her. Sascha told me. Now at that point she did get suspicious and did some research. Sascha was the first officer who lived there and had a heart attack. Max and Heinrich were normal people who moved there but died. Heinrich was very old, by the way. And for Max, my mother had to do more digging because she got the house from the bank. The guy that lived here before us hung himself. Max. I saw and heard them for years. Then it got less until it stopped when I moved into the room of my father when he died, but I always felt watched in that room from the corner his bed was. Might just be paranoia. I'm 9 now and can think rationally now. There is nothing there. And those footsteps? Those aren't his footsteps he did when his feet tingled. No, it's the house settling. It's a wooden house after all. Voices at 2 a.m. Mind playing tricks. Things move. Must be my ADHD. After all, I regularly forget my own age and search for the remote that's in my hand. Fast forward a few more years, I have a friend over and we both decided to stay in the attic to watch Harry Potter. 'Cause my old 80s TV had the DVD player. TV turns off. Must be the bad wiring. Light turns on. Maybe the switch wasn't fully flicked. TV turns on again, but now my VHS is running and New Pagadi is playing. That thing was spooky when I was a toddler, so nothing new. So I tried to fix it when my friend suddenly got quiet and called my name while staring at the direction of the door. There's a mirror on the chimney that I covered. I spray paint when I was a kid 'cause mirrors are creepy. What? I swear there's someone standing. You see things. No, I don't. That's a Russian. Very funny, German. I literally thought she was kidding 'cause she always called me Russian as a nickname. I was the only Russian kid in our elementary school, so my head flicked to that. Look, he's staring right at us. Now I got creeped out, turned around and see nothing. You see someone? Yeah. How do you know he's Russian? 'Cause of the uniform. You see him. Uniform? How the hell would she see my imaginary friends? At least I thought they were imaginary friends. Sascha, go away! As a joke, a bloody joke, and then she turned to me and straight up took her things and ran back down the stairs. She then told me that the Russian that nodded and left. She refused to go anywhere near my attic ever again and spent that night in a tent in the backyard. How the hell could she see my imaginary friend from when I was a toddler? At some point, my mother asked her about this, and after a long talk, she told her what she saw. So once my friend was back at her home the next day, my mother parked her car after we let her put and told me that those were not imaginary friends, that she thought they were, but got convinced otherwise when she once saw my father in the hallway just staring at her, years after he died. She told me she yelled at him to go away, and he just left and went back into his room, which was where he died, and then became my room. I don't know what the hell is up with that house, but let's just say that once I inherit it, it goes straight back to the bank. 'Cause if it really was ghosts, what do those guys in the attic really want? Why are they there? Why did they stare at my friend? Why could she see Sasha and I couldn't? But if he was bad, why did he just nod and leave her alone? Every time I go up to the attic, I feel watched. Every time I'm in my room, I feel watched. I still hear those footsteps and voices from the attic. Maybe those footsteps in my father's room were his stumping to get the blood flowing. I do not want to know. I do not want to see him. I'd probably have the same reaction my mother had when she saw him. But I won't be keeping this house. Something has always gone wrong with this house anyway. It's expensive in the upkeep, and if ghosts are real, no thank you. To this day, the spoon liquor feels the weight of that house, the footsteps, the voices, and the figures that never truly left. Were they the restless spirits of soldiers tied to the land? Simply the echoes of a family's imagination passed from father to child? Whatever the truth may be, one thing is certain. Some houses carry more than history within their walls, and not every inheritance is worth keeping. Some memories from childhood blur with time, fading into dreams. But for Reddit user I want closure 3. One night at just 4 years old has never left them. While staying with family during Hurricane Katrina relief, they awoke in their grandfather's recliner to something far darker than cartoons on TV. A shadowy figure, face like swirling ink, greeted them with a single word: hello. When I was 4 years old, my mum, aunt, and grandpa left to go help with disaster relief after Hurricane Katrina, since my grandpa grew up in Louisiana and very much still considered it a massive part of who he was. I ended up living with my older cousin, younger brother, and grandma for a few weeks or longer, since we didn't know when they would be back. One night I woke up in my grandpa's recliner in the living room, since it was where I usually slept, and remember seeing the TV was on either Boomerang or Cartoon Network. I remember hearing what sounded like noises coming from the hallway where the front door was, and looking to see what it was, and seeing some shadowy figure walking down the hallway. I just got up, ran up to it thinking it was my mum, and stopped maybe 2 feet away because I felt instant dread. I thought it was my mum, but it felt like something inside of me was telling me it wasn't my mum. I just remember it looking down at me and me looking back into the weird inky swirling void that was its face before it said hello. I just immediately burst into tears, ran back to the recliner, and just hid under the blanket I had and closed my eyes. Then I remember waking up to what sounded like tapping on the entranceway that led into the living room and seeing the same figure. I started begging and yelling at my cousin and my brother, who were sleeping on the couch, to wake up, but they never did. My grandma didn't wake up either, no matter how hard I was screaming or how loud. Nobody was there to help me. Then I remember seeing what looked like children start peeking over the entrance at all angles. Sideways and upside down, I remember seeing maybe 20 around my age of all skin tones and hair colors. Then the figure I saw earlier just says, "Hello" again, and that was it for me. I just dove in between my cousin and my brother, trying to hide in between them, and passed out. I woke up in between them that morning and told my grandma everything. I don't know how many pictures I drew, but each one just disturbed my grandma. I remember just telling her how scary the shadowy figure was and how it was in a dream. The pictures she just threw away when I went to preschool that day and wouldn't even let me talk about it. I remember telling my first grade school therapist about it and drew the pictures, and she looked confused but terrified. I'm 23 now and I still can't find answers. Thinking or even speaking about this event just terrifies me and makes me feel like something is near. The other day, I was talking to my boyfriend about it, and weird things around our apartment happened for a solid few hours. Does anyone know what this could have been? To this day, I Want Closure 3 struggles to make sense of what they saw that night. Was it a nightmare, a demon, or something drawn to vulnerability of a child left unguarded? The figure, the children peeking upside down from the doorway, the voice that whispered twice, all linger decades later. Some encounters never fade with age, and sometimes the things that greet us in the dark are far more than dreams. That closes out episode 15, campers. Another night of stories that linger long after the flames burn low. Thank you for keeping watch with us. Until we gather again, stay safe, stay curious, and never ignore the feeling that someone or something is just behind you.
As the night gets longer and the darkness creeps in, with the eerie silence broken only by whispering wind, come gather round the fire, the flickering flames, and hear the tales of the spooky and the strange. A chill up your back, a shiver up your spine. You'll be haunted by the things that you find. Legends will unfold and stories will be told at the Scaredy Campfire, for only